Wait. Holy crap, what have I just found? So I've uncovered a secret plot. And to be honest, it would not be my first time. In fact, it's become kind of a prerogative of mine these days, just because of how much unbelievable propaganda gets shoved down our throat in the Western world, or English-speaking world at least.
一开始是为了一小群白人男性的有产者的利益而建立的，宪法是为了保障这个群体的利益而制定的。
Because the Chinese government does in fact want to coerce the rest of the world into believing that what they do is not only okay, but good and righteous.
In many movies, one single American can save the world. However, in reality, when the mankind facing a big crisis, it is China who stands out.
And also, none of your business. So yeah, I have uncovered a secret plot by the CCP, you know, the Chinese government. And I do this quite often. In fact, I uncovered a massive one a little while ago, back when there was serious allegations of genocide in Xinjiang, which is the western region of China. To give you a super quick rundown, the Chinese government is committing, currently, genocide in Western China. And they're doing that against an ethnic group called the Uyghurs. Why are they doing this? Well, because the Chinese government needs a unified populace. And unfortunately, they've gone down the route of ethno-nationalism. You need to be a proud Chinese, and you need to act like a proud Chinese. And you need to act like the majority ethnic group, the Han Chinese, which dominate politics and dominate everything around the country. How are they going to do this? Well, completely assimilate the population and actually genocide the ones that didn't fall into line. So they set up concentration camps to get rid of extremist thought and also to separate families and completely indoctrinate the Uyghur people into Xi Jinping thought or the current dictator's maniacal ideas, to erase their culture and language, and actually the Uyghurs themselves. Now, long story short, what they've done is that because of allegations have happened and a lot of Uyghur voices have finally been able to speak up, Western governments finally took notice, and there have been Uyghur tribunals, there have been all kinds of confessions, there have been interviews, there have even been governments that have stood up and said, hey, there's actually a genocide going on over there in Western China. And China was not very happy about that, because no one tells China not to genocide. China can genocide whoever they want, apparently. And we're not supposed to say anything about it, because who are we to judge? Genocide's totally fine, isn't it? Now, what they did and what I uncovered before was a massive campaign to whitewash the Uyghur genocide. And I found government documents within China that said, go out, and this was addressed to CCP officials, go out to this area of Xinjiang, find Uyghurs, Uyghur people that can speak good Chinese, and get them to say that they hate Mike Pompeo and that they're very, very mad at the US for insinuating that there's a genocide in Xinjiang. And they did this en masse. I'm talking thousands and thousands of videos inundated Western platforms like Twitter, like YouTube, and I noticed a common thread very quickly, that there were so many of these channels springing up overnight with these kind of forced confession type videos coming out of them, with people with completely inauthentic stories.
我是开始是土生土长的维吾尔族姑娘。最近我在手机等平台上浏览了蓬佩奥发表的滑稽言论，我真的很想笑。
One immediate thing I found very, very suspicious was, why were there thousands of almost identical videos coming up out of nowhere?
我是土生土长的新疆女孩。最近我在网上看到蓬佩奥发了一些污蔑我们新疆的言论，开始。
When in fact, Uyghur people are not allowed to access the outside internet, meaning the internet outside of the Great Firewall of China, which the Chinese government uses to block off its citizens from most of the internet. See, the Chinese government doesn't want Chinese people to interact or interface with people in the outside world unless it's to spread Chinese propaganda. And also, it's even worse for the Uyghur minority because if they're caught going across that Great Firewall, which is a crime in China, using a VPN is a crime in China if it's not sanctioned by the government, it's doubly bad for them. Because if you're a Uyghur and you're caught using a VPN to go across the Great Firewall of China, you just committed an act of terrorism. You're going to jail. And it's pretty funny because a huge foible in their plan when they put out thousands and thousands of scattershot forced confession videos about how happy the Uyghur people are, and in fact there's no oppression in Xinjiang, it's pretty easy to disprove that any Uyghur in China would be able to even access any information about Mike Pompeo, or what he said, or what the US government said, or even what people on the internet are saying about Xinjiang. So it's becoming a common thread. I expose a large-scale operation by the Chinese government. There is no rebuttal from the pro-CCP community because my content is completely blocked in China. But that's not my goal. You see, I want to speak to the English-speaking world, and that's what we're doing right now. We're having a dialogue, and I'd like to show you examples of Chinese propaganda, why they're targeting you in your own country, on your own platform, using your own freedom of speech that you are allowed as a human being, to convince you that what they are doing isn't bad. I want you to be able to identify this stuff. I want you to be able to identify the multi-million dollar campaign to change your mind so that you feel okay about Chinese authoritarianism. It's rare that I get to see some effects come out of my work. I actually stumbled across this morning with the help of my Uyghur friend Inti. He's in the US. He sent me a message and he goes, try this out. Put in this kind of code basically into Twitter where you can filter out certain phrases. And that's what we did. So he said, try this one out. So type in 强迫劳动, which means forced labor. Now, if you type in forced labor in Chinese into Twitter, what you're gonna see is a ton, and I'm talking thousands and thousands of accounts that are posting the same videos over and over and over again. And it's not the Mike Pompeo I'm so angry videos. This time it's anger at H&M and the demonization of the cotton trade in Xinjiang. You see, there's a big controversy a while back when H&M said, we're not gonna buy cotton from Xinjiang anymore because there's allegations that they were using slave labor from the people, the Uyghur minorities in the concentration camps to pick cotton. As part of this kind of fair cotton thing that they're involved in, they're like, we can't be part of that. Some other brands followed suit. Whether they're evil or altruistic or not, I'll leave that up to you, but the point is, China got mad. How dare you disrupt the cotton trade? So they got all kinds of fake propaganda to put out there about how angry all the Chinese people are, and they used it to rile up nationalism as usual. But what was funny was what we found on Twitter. A bunch of forced confessions yet again.
我最近在网上看到这个 H&M 等外企在抵制我们新疆棉花，说我们新疆棉花是靠强迫劳动得来的。我很生气，这根本就是胡说八道，真的很好，很幸福。像他们所说的强迫劳动根本就是不存在的事情。
Ameliyatda Şinjan'da da mecbur emgek sağan, mecbur paxtagili sağan ahval mevcut emas. Biz intayin erkin.
媒体和 H&M 公司抹黑我们新疆的棉花是强迫劳动，新疆维吾尔族很生气，根本就没这种事。我们在新疆挺自由的生活的。
Chinese government, I have some advice for you. When I point out thousands and thousands and thousands of videos that you've wasted your time on when you make these poor Uyghurs confess on camera to how amazing their life is, and that when they're clearly uncomfortable, I find inconsistencies and patterns in your videos to completely disprove them, then why would you do it again? Because that's what they did. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of new forced confession videos all over Twitter. And I can guarantee you they'll be popping up on YouTube any minute now. Thousands of Twitter accounts have been used or co-opted to post these new videos about how bad H&M is and how there is no forced labor in China.
Yaqında chet ellik bir qism korxonalar Şinjanning paxta sifatidan yaxshi emas deb, Şinjanda majburiy emgak va deb yolg'on yupidaq gap qildi. Biz buning qat'iy qarshi. Biz 5 yil 20 moyaga paxta terdik. Bizning bundan keyingi turmushimiz intayin yaxshilanib.
There's no forced labor in Xinjiang.
Paxta tergizet degan qamdashmagan gap so'zlarni o'qib, o'ta achchum keldi. O'sholda gap bo'ldi bu. Bizde anday ish yo'q. Biz o'z erkin, o'z xalaqanimiz bo'yicha yaxshi chirg'al turmush.
And it's all Western media propaganda. And this time, the reason I say that I affected change is I thought that they wouldn't take this route again. I thought they'd be a little smarter about it. But this time, because I explained to everyone very clearly that Uyghurs can't access the Western internet with a VPN, so they wouldn't know what Mike Pompeo was saying or what all this Western propaganda was saying. They made it clear that they saw it on Douyin, which is Douyin is China's TikTok, right? Which they would have access to. So they have access to Douyin, so they've changed their story now. I saw on Douyin that H&M said some really nasty stuff.
Жақында Douyin көріп отырып, H&M şirketinden Şinjanlıqtарды мәжбүри paxta.
And I'm really mad as a Xinjiang person, as a Uyghur person, because my life is super happy. I make 8,000 RMB a month, and I am allowed to do whatever I want. There's no forced labor here. And it's like, I don't know how to explain this to you guys, but if you followed my content in the past, you realize how authoritarianism it shoots itself in the foot. Because what you have is this chain of command. You get the officials that say, go out there and get a bunch of thousands of people to say Mike Pompeo is bad. They go and coerce these people into having these confessions. They're super, super uncomfortable. They come back, I expose them, it trickles down to mass media, it gets out there in New York Times, all these kind of publications, they finally cover it. And at the end of the day, people get to say, holy shit, this is really bad what's happening in Xinjiang. And it actually backfires, right? If they didn't do this, then people wouldn't talk about the genocide in Xinjiang, if they actually just let it go. But because of the chain of command, somebody says, to save face, we need to go and lie to the Westerners out there to make all this bad stuff go away, because it's leading to sanctions, and the sanctions are working. It's leading to bad press, and the bad press is working. It's making the Chinese government look bad, and it makes other things not work as well, right? That's the nature of how Chinese government coercion works. So what do? They go and do exactly the same thing, but they change it a little bit. They're like, well, the chain of command goes, well, the reason it didn't work last time is because this guy on YouTube, he was talking about how the Uyghurs wouldn't be able to access this information because they can't use a VPN or else they'll go to jail and be labeled as terrorists by the government. So that's true. What can we do to get around this? Well, what we'll do is we'll say that they saw this information on Douyin and that they're super mad, and then say exactly the same lazy ass, uncomfortable conversation. And they co-opted these people yet again across Xinjiang to say how amazing their lives are and how that there's absolutely no forced labor in China, and how they're very, very angry that someone would say something like that. When knowing, off camera, if you were to speak to them in their own language, away from all of these Chinese officials that are putting cameras in their face telling them to read a script, you would know what the reality is that millions of them have been completely torn apart from their families and put into concentration camps to weed out their entire culture. And that's simply the truth. We see this time and time again, and China just can't let it go. I mean, I'm trying my best to wrap my head around how someone can put so much time and money into these propaganda campaigns and fall so short of being able to convince anyone, because a YouTuber like myself that reads and speaks Chinese can just see through this immediately. And you know what's perhaps even more interesting is that the accounts that they're using are all from around the same time. They're all from around 2021. I've noticed that. And they have almost no followers. So the idea is to either scattershot all of this information out there, hoping it gets shared around, or they're just doing their job, right? They're like, well, we got a bunch of Twitter accounts. They didn't tell us that they had to have any followers, and we're just going to pump out a bunch of propaganda and get paid for it. I found a trend amongst some of the other Twitter accounts that they were using to spread all this Xinjiang propaganda. And one of the trends is that there were some old accounts, which actually look quite organic. Why would an old account spread Chinese propaganda? Certainly it must be of their own volition. Well, I found a lot of these accounts are from Europe, for example, Poland. And they seem to stop posting around 2016. All of a sudden, out of the blue, this month, they're active again, posting Xinjiang propaganda in Chinese. Were these accounts hacked? Were they stolen? Were they bots? People's accounts on Twitter are being co-opted to spread malicious Chinese propaganda and promote genocide. It's truly happening. It's not only that, though. It's not just the Xinjiang stuff. It's not just the Uyghur genocide stuff. I found something else.
就在刚刚发生了一件让我毕生都觉得很温暖的事情。刚才我拿着手机支架，准备在江边录视频的时候，以50米外停着一辆边防的特警车。因为我们这边是在中朝的边境线上，隔着一条鸭绿江200米以外呢就是朝鲜。这个时候，2个全副武装的特警就向我走过来说：“女士，您是要在我们这边直播吗？”我说：“不是的。”我说我只是录个视频，怎么了？是不是耽误你们执勤了？特警连忙解释道，说是这样的，现在呀是疫情期间，朝鲜那边呢非常的敏感，总会对我们这边喊话，您呐拿着个架子，别产生什么误会，我们呢是担心您的安全。然后我说，那我不拍他们那边，我只拍我们这边的山和水，您看行吗？然后一个战士想了想说，行，那我们就不耽误您工作了。
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say, I think Winston and I had something to do with this video, you know, due to the fact that we just put out a video called On the North Korean Border, How We Got Away from the Police in China. This is just a straw man scenario they're posing to the populace to say, well, the Chinese government's very authoritarian and we will tell you to stop doing what you're doing in the name of national security, but it's just to keep you safe. It's kind of to test the waters. It's kind of to get people used to it. But the funny thing is not about this video, which is clearly scripted. The funny thing is this video happened countless times. The exact same script. Check this out.
真的一件让我毕生都觉得很温暖的事情。刚才我拿着手机支架，准备在江边录视频的时候，以50米外停着一辆边防的特警车。因为我们这边呢是在中朝的边境线上，隔着一条鸭绿江，200米以外呢就是朝鲜。
就在几个小时之前，发生了一件让我毕生都会觉得很温暖的事情。今天下午，我拿着手机支架，准备在江边拍摄视频的。
And then even one guy that kind of screwed up and said, well, we're kind of near the China-Japan border, you know, on the Yellow Sea. And just 200 meters away is Japan.
因为我们这里呢是中日的边境线，隔着一片黄海，前方200米呢就是日本。
200 meters away is Japan.
前方200米呢就是日本。
I think this guy, unfortunately, should be coached a little bit on geography to know that that's literally impossible. But this kind of stuff exists, and it's lazy, it's sloppy, it's scattershot, and this is the kind of propaganda you can expect from a country that is just so broken. You see, the Chinese government knows how to keep order and maintain discipline because they are a very, very strict authoritarian government. The problem is in their misinformation or disinformation campaigns is how much is lost in that chain of command to corruption. Because some guy is getting paid a ton of money to go, you know, perform an operation, let's say like a disinformation campaign about what's happening in Western China, like in Xinjiang. And at the end of the day, what happens is he gives that job to someone who gives that job to someone who gives that job to someone, and they skim along the top. Maybe they're supposed to pay the people on video. Maybe they're supposed to use that money to set up a studio and make it look more believable. But at the end of the day, what happens is that it gets lost and they realize that they're just copying the exact same campaign from times past, which has already failed. So I'm sorry, Chinese government, I've thwarted your campaign again. And I just wanted you guys to know that you need to keep your eyes out for this kind of stuff to make sure that you're not being swayed by this absolutely insane campaign to change your mind. Keep in mind, I didn't put those subtitles up on those videos. Those are made for you to see. And unfortunately for the Chinese government, unless you step up your act, people are always going to be able to figure this out. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you're subscribed. I have no idea why. I checked the analytics. It's like a huge portion of you guys are not even subscribed to the channel. And if you want to support the channel, I really appreciate it. Head over to patreon.com/Laowai86. You can message me directly about video ideas. You want to talk to me directly about anything. That's where to do it, and you support the channel at the same time. So I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Laowinners, and I'll catch you on the next one. Conflict of Nations is a free online PvP strategy game happening in modern global warfare. Choose your own strategy, engage in epic battles, and take over the world. You get an exclusive gift. Click on the link in the description and get 13,000 gold and 1 month of premium subscription for free. Offers only available for 30 days, so don't lose time. Click on the link in the description, choose your country, and fight your way to victory.